Have you ever been through a little patch in life where nothing is going your way? Bad luck here, some bad news over there, and you just want to throw your hands up in the air and say, come on, universe, what have I done to deserve this? And more importantly, how do I get out of it? And that's kind of what Aston Villa is going through right now, although let's have some perspective. We're talking about football here. This isn't really life and death, even though it sometimes feels like it. And the question is, how does Villa get out of this malaise that we seem to be in? Presented by 24/7 Services, let's review Aston Villa 0, Juventus 0. Momentum in sport is an amazing thing, and I love watching sports, and I have seen many teams in various sports over the years ride that wave of momentum where the luck is just on their side. A bounce goes their way. A big decision goes in their favor. When things aren't going well for an extended period, it feels like you're being sucked down in this negative vortex. And the biggest challenge is mentally, because you can manifest your own troubles. On Tuesday, Unai Emery said it. He said, football is not this straight level path that you carry on. It's sometimes up, it's sometimes down. And the problem is when you're on an extended down period, that means that the hill you have to climb to get out of it is much steeper. The minute the team news came out, I realized we were going after this very depleted opponent, trying to get out of this funk, trying to get 3 points and in a positive frame of mind again. And as every minute went by without any substitutions, it felt like we are going to empty the tank on this opponent at all costs. And sure enough, they get to minute 93 plus, think they get the game-winning goal at the death, only for that to be taken away from them. We'll talk about that a little bit later, obviously. And I'd be dying to know what's happening behind the scenes at Bodymoor Heath right now, how the staff is trying to rebuild the morale of this group and the frame of mind and confidence while still getting them ready now for a big game on Sunday at Chelsea. This is when we find out about people. Hard times like these. I really hope I'm not sounding like this is the end of the world, because it absolutely is not. Aston Villa is playing Champions League football against some of Europe's biggest and highest profile clubs in a crackling atmosphere on a Wednesday night. And by the way, through 5 games, we've earned 10 points. My maths tell me that's 2 points per game, and we would have taken that the day the draw came out. I welcome you to the Holy Trinity show. You know, Trinity is not just the name of one of our stands and the road behind it. It's also 3. And these are the 3 biggest issues or moments that define Villa 0, Juve 0. With correspondent Alex Dutton back in the house. A chilly night at Villa Park. Maybe should have worn warmer gloves. Many of the key numbers favored the visitors, including possession, passing accuracy, duels, tackles, successful dribbles, interceptions, and even blocks. The one metric we did shine on, though, and it was an option often, was the accurate long ball, which I usually include in these stats. Villa connected on 13 of them for 59%. That's decent. We also commanded the aerial duels by a count of 9-6. The one aerial duel we didn't win, however, would cost us the game-winning goal. Irritating issue. You have a player taking a set piece late in that first half and going crossbar and over. I mean, inches from scoring. The same player who actually did score for his country by going crossbar, goalkeeper, and in. I'm talking about Luca Dean. Second half, you get another set piece opportunity from an arguably better location because it's slightly farther outside the box. And now you have a squabble between 2 players over who's going to take it. I'm sorry, this is down to leadership. Unai Emery or Austin McPhee need to say, step aside, Leon Bailey, because there is nothing about you right now that screams this is going top bins. And Bailey gets to take the free kick and puts it in the upper deck of the Holt. Bad optics, and avoidable. Very positive issue. Boubacar Kamara on Wednesday looked a lot more like the Boubacar Kamara we came to know, love, and depend on at points last year. And I've said on this program that Douglas Luiz's dip in form kind of coincided with Kamara's injury, although maybe not being offered a new contract also had something to do with it. But, he was carrying a knock, Bouba. So to start this game against a very well-organized and good pressing team, it was a big ask for him, and he went 78 minutes. 3 for 3 on accurate long balls, which is a huge component of his game and ours. If you can't go through sometimes, maybe you need to go over or long. He also recovered the ball 5 times, and considering his position and how well Juventus presses, 83% passing completion percentage is pretty darn good. We need this player, and every game that he has like this gets him closer to being at his best. Have you ever had a renovation horror story? Like one time we had a leaky skylight and the roof around it was in bad shape, so this guy got recommended to us. He has a Brummie accent. And I said, "Which club do you support?" And he says, "Blues." At which point I should have said, "Sorry, we found a better quote." But we let him do the job. The work was shoddy. The quote was high, and then he never returned any of our calls. He didn't even finish the job. But here it's a dog and pony show, honestly. Like to try to get a fair quote with quality work to back it up, people who are insured, it is really hard. And here's where Paul Handsaker and the 24/7 Services crew are militant about an accurate quote and the quality behind the work, and of course, being insured for your benefit. Well, he can explain it a lot better than I can.
We are a company who have got many strings to our bow, to be truthful, but the only reason that we ever try and say that we do these things is because, you know what, we're quite good. I know that sounds big-headed, but I wouldn't put my name forward on anything if I didn't think we were good at what we were doing.
I simply could not understand why the Blues roofer wouldn't return to finish the job or even phone me back, like especially in an age where everybody is offering ratings and reviews online. And by the way, Paul Handsaker hates a lack of communication. If his crew isn't going to a work site that day, he phones and makes sure the client knows, so they're not sitting around all day. Listen, if you have a trades-oriented project coming up, whether that's at your home, your commercial property, your rental property, the Villa Mad 24/7 Services crew can probably do the job for you. And by the way, if you want to commiserate about Villa's current plight right now, they're not going to charge you for that conversation. That's free. I'm not going to harp on about Morgan Rogers losing possession. I'm not going to moan about Aston Villa's attack breaking down when it comes to big morgues. I'm not going to sound like a broken record, and I would have forgiven and forgotten everything if that final goal had stood. At the risk of repeating myself, the biggest issue for Aston Villa Football Club right now is our lack of conviction, decisiveness, ruthlessness on the break. It used to look so automatic, didn't it? Now it's the wrong decision, the wrong run, the wrong timing, just a little bit off. And maybe the most frustrating one of them all, because there were many examples in this game and over the past couple of weeks, was the one very late by Diego Carlos, where he decided to take it coast to coast with 43,000 fans yelling, move it, Diego," including me from my couch. He didn't move it. Obviously, a lot of the credit has to go to one of the most defensively organized units we've seen in a very long time. I mean, that back four was never pulled apart. They were never frazzled. They never looked surprised or caught. And they were tight, vertically and horizontally. With every decision we were making on the ball or every run being made off of it, it just all felt out of sync, and it has for a long time. It's like we're thinking rather than just reacting and playing. It's hard to watch. It must be really frustrating to be part of. Big moment number 3, Dibu's denial. Considering all the doom and gloom around Aston Villa for the last couple of weeks, we have played 10 halves of Champions League football, and we've blanked our opponents in 9 of them. And our opponents have included Bayern Munich and Juventus. The one half where we did concede, that was basically an own goal. It was that diabolical a penalty. And I believe we've equaled a record in this competition with 3 straight home clean sheets to start the campaign. Only Inter Milan have achieved that previously, and we have a chance to maybe beat it against Celtic. So odd how we're not keeping clean sheets in the league, but in Champions League, we're very hard to score against. And I think a lot of that has to do with the world's number one. He loves this competition. He said it over and over again. It's high profile, it's high stakes, and that's when it seems like Emi Martinez has an extra gear and he truly shines, like in minute number 65, when he somehow claws out the Conceição effort after a Juve corner. Imagine that goes in. Now we're talking about defending set pieces again. But he had very little goal mouth stress up until that point, and yet he is still switched on enough to keep that ball just from going over the line. I mean, just look at how close this is from the goal line technology system. My heart sunk when I saw it in real time because it looked like it was over the line to me, and the referee immediately put his arms up and said no goal because his watch wasn't buzzing. But how Martinez stayed with that in a game where he had such little activity is just marvelous. And this is why he's the world's best goalkeeper. This is why he shines when the chips are really down and against a very stingy and organized Juventus team. That goal goes in there. That's the game winner. I have no doubt of that. And imagine the misery that would have been piled on if that was the case. That's how close we came. Big moment number 2. McGinn's miss. Oh, what a chance on the 70th minute. And John McGinn was playing in a different role in this game. He was playing in behind the striker in the pocket. And there were times in this game, especially when they were pressing, where he was the farthest forward and the most central. Now, he plays that role with Scotland, so this isn't really a square peg and round hole situation. And he's also contributed goals for us in this competition and last year in the Conference League. So I think it was a logical move. Was it a move born out of Unai Emery recognizing, Big Morgan is not having a very good time playing in that role behind the striker? And then again, Morgan Rogers, when he first came to us, was playing on the left-hand side as Jacob Ramsey was recovering from injury. Minute 70, and Leon Bailey replicates almost exactly the goal that Villa scored early against Arsenal last year. He takes on a couple of defenders, manages to cut the ball back to John McGinn, who spun and scored. This time, I don't know if McGinn didn't expect Bailey to find him with the pass, or his feet weren't ready, or he just didn't get the contact he wanted. But if that's elevated off the ground, even in the location where he put it, it's probably a goal. And when you see it again from the field level, if he puts that high in the near corner, it's going to be almost impossible for the goalkeeper to save. Instead, the combined efforts of Di Gregorio and Locatelli block the ball before it can cross the goal line, and our best chance of the game, and the only big chance we created, according to the record keepers, goes begging. Now, we think about momentum and the difference between this year and last. Well, last year, only days after beating Manchester City at home, we play Arsenal, and early in that game, McGinn scores a goal from virtually the same area of the penalty box in very similar circumstances. This year, we have to come from behind to draw Crystal Palace a few days earlier, and this one doesn't go in. Those are the fine margins that change our fortunes, and right now, our fortunes are looking a little bit bleak. And the number one big moment that defined Villa 0, Juventus 0. Late drama. I mean, this moment could define our Champions League campaign. And I'm watching this game while messaging with a dear old friend of mine named Massimo Soriano, who's a huge Juve fan, and he was giving me all the updates about the team and who was out, who was in, Luiz, Lehmann, all of it. Even he was saying how weird it was that the decisions were all going in favor of his team. And he didn't mind because he's a Juve fan, but he thought it was odd. 3 quick yellow cards, a lot of fouls against Aston Villa. And the most infuriating thing that I noticed was how often Juventus delayed the restart by kicking the ball away or throwing it away. And of course, in the Premier League, that's an automatic booking now. I guess that law hasn't really caught up in the rest of Europe. So really, it came as no surprise to me that Morgan Rogers' late dramatic heroics would be all for naught. And when the ball went in the net, my eyes immediately went to the referee first because there was contact in the penalty area. What does this posture and this indication mean to you? To me, he's saying goal. He's pointing towards midfield. Or is he saying that's a foul and the direction of the free kick is this way? Because I still think it's the former, and that's important because if he's saying goal on the field, then only a clear and obvious error can overturn it. Now, the goalkeeper is outside of his 6-yard box, and Diego Carlos has every right to contest that ball aerially and even make contact. And the goalkeeper has the advantage. He can reach up and use both hands, and he got both hands on them. But then he falls to the floor after taking a nudge, and he looks as though he's died. And as he's lying motionless on the field, he is praying that the referee is going to award a foul against Diego Carlos because he knows he fumbled the ball as it came his way. We've seen numerous situations like this over the years where there is a collision between player and goalkeeper outside the 6. Same thing happened on the equalizing goal for Villa at Lille, in a way. And sometimes the refereeing and the officiating staff says, yep, that's a goal, nothing wrong with that. Other times they say, no, that's a foul on a goalkeeper. Basically, it's one of those, today it's going to be a foul on the goalkeeper. Everything that happened after the ball went into the net was confusing and unclear to me. It was very strange, including how it was covered on the broadcast. The referee's 15 yards away from it, remember. If he thinks that's a foul on the goalkeeper right away, he runs to the spot and indicates, but he didn't do that. And VAR did not send him to the monitor for a review. Clearly, there was an obvious error involved because I thought the referee was indicating goal. Unai Emery said afterwards, in England, that's a goal because those are the standards with how you make contact with the goalkeeper. In Europe, it isn't. Alan Smith was the color commentator on the broadcast. He said, that is charitable in the extreme when watching the replay. And he's right. 2 outfield players come together like that, nothing's wrong. But a goalkeeper outside the safe zone of his 6-yard box gets both hands on it and fumbles it, gets away with it. And remember, I'm a card-carrying member of the Goalkeepers Union. The Sill Hill Brewery star performer was debatable for me again. I could have given it to Dibu Martinez just for the 65th minute save alone, but you know what? I'm giving it to Pau Torres, who has been so good in our Champions League campaign. I mean, he is poised, he is smooth, he is composed. He nearly scored from a near-post flick-on off a first-half corner, but then he's trying to combine for the short little midfield passes, sometimes trying to unlock the stingy Juve defense with a long ball. Like Ross Barkley the other day, I'm going to pour Pau a superstar West Coast IPA because Pau, too, is big, bold, and blonde. And by the way, Sean Craig, a devoted viewer of this program, was at the Sill Hill Tap Room prior to the match, enjoying beautifully crafted, deliciously designed, and ridiculously priced pints in the lead up to kickoff. And with this Friday being the evening with European champions, well, you know that the pints will be flowing. And I'm just talking about Tony Morley. Do you know what's odd? Despite all the doom and gloom around the club and the run of form, of course, is that we haven't really been severely punished in either of the tables that we care about. I mean, we're still right in the mix for a top 8 spot as of today in Champions League, and a win on Sunday would put us level on points with Chelsea. But something tells me that the Enzo Maresca Chelsea is a very different proposition from the previous incarnations. And I just think Sunday is going to be really tricky. The last 3 visits to that club have earned us clean sheets, incredibly. 2 wins and a draw in the FA Cup. I would bite your arm off to get a clean sheet on Sunday. And because it looked like we were trying to empty the tank to go and win this Juventus game, that pushed a lot of our regulars to the max. When you think about McGinn and Morgan Rogers, our entire backline, Yuri Tielemans. Thankfully, this game is on a Sunday, so that's an extra day of rest in between. You wonder if Ezri Konsa might be available. Maatsen playing against his former club, same as maybe Ross Barkley. But it's a relentless schedule right now because after Sunday, it's a quick turnaround. We've got Brentford at home on Wednesday. That's going to be tricky, followed by Southampton. Then it's RB Leipzig away at Nottingham Forest. I mean, when things aren't going well for you, every game ahead looks difficult. I want to share my gratitude with you for watching this program because it ain't easy when the team you love and support is going through a little bit of a funk. And I notice it with the viewing habits. And you know, the next time we convene, it will officially be December. That's hard to believe. Last December was amazing for us. I think we only lost on Boxing Day against United, which was hard. And we needed a late Nicolo Zaniolo goal to get a home draw with Sheffield United, which nobody saw coming. And I hope the next time we get together, we'll have better news on Amadou Onana. You really notice when he's not available for selection. And we could probably use Jacob Ramsey as well right now. Until the trip to London, stay warm, stay awesome. And as always, up the mighty Villa.